A very warm welcome to all the viewers to this session organized by Tilottama Foundation titled India Myanmar Relations The Journey So Far and the Coup. I am Yukta Acharya, Senior Coordinator to Tilottama Foundation. Tilottama Foundation is a global organization working in the areas of international relations, financial, environmental, strategic, and defense policy. After Tilottama Foundation's recent successful seminar on recent coup in Myanmar, what next and what are its implications, with some of the leading Myanmar experts, we are here with another interesting talk on Myanmar. Today's speaker is Dr. Syed Ali Mujtaba. Dr. Mujtaba is the head of Department of Visual Communications, Guru Nanak College. He is also a journalist and media professional. He was a Jefferson Fellow at the East West Center, Hawaii in 2003. He has been writing extensively on Myanmar in the recent times. Dr. Mujtaba will cover in detail the contours and nuances of the Indian Myanmar relationship over the years and how it has been affected by the recent military coup in Myanmar that began on the 1st of February 2021. Let me now request Dr. Mujtaba to begin his presentation.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Yukta, and so much to Tilottama Foundation. I know you folks for a long time, and I've been waiting for this day when I can address people across the, on the internet. And today we have a very interesting topic, that is India-Myanmar relationship after the coup. And let me just preface my talk that I will be only confining to India-Myanmar relationship. There are so many angles to the coup, and there are so many angles to the topic as such. But my talk of the day will be only on the India-Myanmar relationship and the story so far. I mean, how we have developed this our relationship with Myanmar. That's what I'm going to focus right now. So let me just brief you out what has happened. So the army caucus in Myanmar called the Tatmadaw took over the reins of the power from the civilian government in a bloodless coup in the morning of February 1st, 2001. And they declared a year-long state emergency. The military occurred a day before the Myanmar parliament was to swear its elected members to the parliament, who have been elected in November 2020. And they headed, and that was the election, gave a landslide victory to the National League for Democracy, that is headed by the Aung San Suu Kyi, the leader of the National League for Democracy. The party won 396 seats out of 476 odd seats in the combined House of the Parliament. And the army disapproved the election. That's the whole issue. The November election was disapproved by the Parliament, and they staged a coup, and they detained the country's de facto leader Aung San Suu Kyi, President Win Myint, and other political party, other leaders of the National League of Democracy. And the army handed over the party to the power to the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, Min Aung Hlaing. Min Aung Hlaing. He is now the supreme ruler of the Myanmar. So this is how it happened, and more details on it is a separate discussion altogether. We are just going to say that the coup has happened on February 1st. It was a bloodless coup. The army told the civilian government that just excuse yourself, and they have been arrested, and the army took control of the power. So now the second point which I'm going to raise over here is the reason for the coup. Why the coup actually has happened. So the very success of the National League for Democracy party alarmed the military establishment that it feared that Aung San Suu Kyi may build a democratic federal union and change the constitution, and where the army would have no role to play. Let me tell you here is that army has a very, very significant and pivotal role to play for the last 50 years or more than that. Army has been a dominant factor in Myanmar. So the army were feeling that, their privileged position may be lost. So the military, which holds the privileged position in Myanmar, feared that the transformation of the country to full-fledged democracy will hamper its interest. And so they exercised their authority and seized the power. The second reason for the military was the huge stakes in country's security and stability. And the Myanmar military has a huge stake in the country's security and stability. And in order to remain relevant to maintain the national military, remain. Military has a vested interest in keeping Myanmar's ethnic pot boiling. Boiling, which means that Myanmar has a lot of ethnic issues, and they all are fighting. They are all rebels called by the Myanmar government, and the military felt that if the Aung San Suu Kyi or National Look for Democracy goes and have a handshake with all these ethnic rebels and ethnic groups, and form a unity government in Myanmar, then the military will lose its powers. They have no role to play. So, in order to have its relevance, established or intact in Myanmar, the military went ahead and had staged up. The third reason was that the General Ming Helong, who is supposed to retire in coming June, he nursed the ambition to remain in power for an indefinite period of time. He therefore seized the power through the stage-managed coup, and to fulfill his ambition. The fourth reason is General Min Helong and his family has developed a huge business interest in Myanmar, and they want to have, they did not want to lose the grip over the power, so that they may lose their business. So General's family and the proxy business associates saw that they may be sidelined if the democratic forces comes to the power. So in order to remain in power and in order to be maintain their business establishment, they thought that the best way to do it is to remove the civilian government, and before they could do any damage to them, they should be managing the country. The fifth reason is the military had handed over the power to the civilian government only in 2015, and after which the civilian government or the democratic government popularity increased quite multifold. It actually skyrocketed. The military feared that the civilian government may rob their deputy dominant position, and that's the reason they staged a coup to maintain a supremacy in power in Myanmar. So these are primarily 5 reasons why the coup has happened on February 1st, 2021. So the army gave its own reason for the coup. It told to the world that the November 2020 elections were not fair, and asked the civilian leadership to look into the irregularities in the election, but the civilian government refused. The other reason was the army, Aung San Suu Kyi was not able to, army gave the reason that Aung San Suu Kyi was not able to improve the economic situation and unemployment in the country. And the economy was not performing well, the unemployment was rising high. And moreover, it also said that the Aung San Suu Kyi was not able to handle the pandemics, properly. So these were the army's version for staging a coup. Now we leave it here. Now we come to the main topic, which is India's response to the coup. So India's response to the Myanmar coup was guarded. A statement by the Ministry of External Affairs said that India has noted the developments of Myanmar with deep concern and is monitoring the situation closely. The MEA statement added that India was always been steadfast in its support to the process of democratic transition in Myanmar and believes that the rule of law and the democratic process must be upheld. So that's what the India's official position is. And what has happened is, one need to understand is that India has learned from its earlier mistakes of the democratic activism in 1988 and also in the 1990, and has now become more pragmatic, keeping its strategic security and economic interest while dealing with Myanmar. Now, India's stated position is that it has no role to play in the domestic affairs of the Myanmar and will deal with whichever government is in power in the Myanmar. India sees the development of Myanmar as its internal matter and is unconcerned whether the military leadership sticks to its 1-year schedule of emergency rule or it extends to an indefinite period. So as far as today, that's the official position of Indian government towards the Myanmar coup. Now, Indian-Myanmar relationship so far. How the Indian-Myanmar relationship has established till today, that's what I'm going to run down right now. It is in this backdrop, Indian-Myanmar relationship has to be understood after the February 1st, 2021 coup. India shares 1,643 kilometers of common border with Myanmar. 4 Indian states, Mizoram, Manipur, Nagaland, Arunachal Pradesh, have borders with Myanmar. As such, As such, there is no territorial dispute between the two countries. There is a clear demarcation of land and maritime boundaries between India and Myanmar. Now, India enjoyed friendly relationship with Myanmar or Burma from 1948 to 1962. There was democracy at that point of time in Burma. And the Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru and Prime Minister U Nu of Burma, when they were at the helm of affairs, they had quite a good relationship. The two leaders were instrumental in cementing initial political and economic ties with India and Myanmar, and India provided military and economic assistance to Burma during that time. India's relationship with Burma totally froze after General Ne Win took control of power through a similar military coup in 1962. In 1962, General Ne Win came and in a bloodless coup removed the Prime Minister U Nu from power and said that I'm going to take control over the country. And it was a military coup in 1962, and the biggest saddest part was that Myanmar or the General Ne Win, he ordered expulsion of all Indians who were living in Myanmar, and they wanted him to be out of the country. And it created a big refugee crisis in 1962. India had to arrange aircrafts and ships and ferries and all these things to lift citizens out of Burma. Since then, India has been critical of the military regime in Burma. Military coup was disdained by India, and India stood by its commitment to democracy. It reprimanded Burma on human rights abuse issues, suppression of democracy, and avoided any contact with its neighboring country. So from 1962 to 1988, India-Myanmar relationship were totally frozen. But then what have happened in 1988 was there was a social eruption in Myanmar because of the economic conditions in Myanmar, the unemployment situation, price rise, inflation, and all these issues created a social unrest in Myanmar in 1988, which led General Ne Win to step down, and he was replaced by a military junta called SOLAR, State Law and Order Restoration Council. That came to power, and there was, at this point of time, when the SOLAR came to power, they again unleashed a military repression on the people, and there was a big exodus of the Burmese nationals to India. So the Burmese people, fled away because of the military repression, and they came to India because India and Myanmar share a very long border with them. So New Delhi provided refugee status to the thousands of Burmese who fled Burma from their country due to military repression, and extended moral support to the pro-democracy movement in Myanmar. That was the policy at that point of time in 1988. So Indian and Myanmar's relationship saw a major shift during Narasimha Rao regime. And our Prime Minister Narasimha Rao was the Prime Minister of India from 1991 to 1996. There was a major shift in India's policy towards Myanmar. That's because he announced the Look-East policy. The Look-East policy was to reach to the Southeast Asian country. And the way to reach the South Asian country is through Myanmar. So when Narasimha Rao announced the Look-East policy, obviously there was some thaw of relationship between India and Myanmar, and there were three stated reasons given by the government at that point of time why India have this change in policy towards Myanmar. The first one was that in Myanmar's huge land mass played a crucial role to reach out to the ASEAN countries. You cannot go to the ASEAN country without crossing Myanmar. So the land route has to be given by Myanmar in order that India can reach out to Thailand first, and beyond Thailand, you can go to Malaysia and then to further down to there, and then you can come back to Singapore River. So that was one reason. The second was to check insurgency, drug trafficking, border smuggling in the Northeast states. And the third was obviously to check the rising influence of China in the strategically significant neighborhood, that is Myanmar. So these were the three reasons why India changed its attitude or its policy towards Myanmar way back in 1991 to 1996. But then what has happened is that Indian-Myanmar relation once again deteriorated in 1995 when Prime Minister Narasimha Rao was still in power. Some people in the Indian government, they conferred, or the Indian government conferred the Jawaharlal Nehru Award on the pro-democracy leader Aung San Suu Kyi. So in 1995, India gave the Jawaharlal Nehru Award to Aung San Suu Kyi. This was not liked by the military regime or junta over there. And what they did was that they released many anti-India militants from their detentions in the jail, and they were allowed to indulge in anti-India activities, and were allowed to do insurgency and militancy and all that in the the northeast region. So during ICAC Gujarat period, that was April 1997, March 1990, relations slipped back to the pre-1999 position, pre-98 position, 1988 position. That is supporting the pro-democracy movement, criticizing the military rule, and saying that Indian government put conditions on improving the human rights record, restoration of democracy to improve relationship with Myanmar. So India put all these conditions that if you improve your human rights records, if you chart out a map to have a democratic setup, then only India will talk to Myanmar. Otherwise, India is not going to talk to Myanmar. But then the real shift in Indian-Myanmar relationship came in during the Vajpayee regime, 1998 to 2004. Vajpayee government gave a new impetus to the Look East policy and developed a positive, proactive approach with the military rulers of Myanmar. The Manmohan Singh government kept up the momentum, and subsequently his successor, Narendra Modi, redefined the Look East policy as Act East policy. Since then, a new energy is infused in the Indian-Myanmar relationship, and the Modi government has based its relations with Myanmar based on 6 C's. 6 C's: commerce, connectivity, capacity building, civilizational links, community building, and China factor. So currently, India's Myanmar relationship is based on 6 C's, and this 6 C's is the current Indian government's redefinition of Indian-Myanmar relations. Now, commerce. The first C is commerce. The volume of trade is rapidly growing between India and Myanmar. The two countries are closer to achieve 1 billion worth of trade. India export to Myanmar is about 200 million, while its import to Myanmar is about 729.9 million. There are 4 designated international border trades: More in Manipur, Zokatar and Pangsu Pass in Mizoram, and Longwa in Nagaland. There are 2 items listed in the free trade agreement. 22 items are listed in the free trade agreement, and demands are made to include more items in the trading list. There are problems of currency exchange rates between both the countries that has been resolved, and now the trade is being conducted either in euros or in local currency. India has signed double taxation arrangement for the prevention of tax evasion, and this has railways communication network. India is developing transport corridor to East Asian countries through Myanmar. The trilateral highway connecting India and Thailand by Myanmar is the key project to reach out to the Southeast Asian countries. Further, India is building a stretch of 225-kilometer road connecting Zakatar in Mizoram and Tidium in Myanmar's Chin state. The ambitious Mekong Ganga Cooperation Rail project will link in New Delhi with Hanoi, that is, in Vietnam, passing through Myanmar and Thailand, and then going into Vietnam. And New Delhi with Indian Railways has also initiated the preliminary task to extend the broad gauge track from Jiribam in Manipur to More, that is close to Myanmar border. India has completed the Caledon multi-modal transport project and has rebuilt Myanmar's Sitwe port that links the Caledon River and Mizoram, and the project in southern part of Mizoram has been completed. This project in the southern part of has been completed with almost $100 million. So this is the sort of the what you call connectivity projects India is doing, and India is going all out to build connectivity in Myanmar, and it is not bothered about which regime is in power. Now the third C is capacity building. Now India is also taking a lot of pains in capacity building of Myanmar, and there are several bilateral agreements between India and Myanmar for capacity building. in projects like infrastructure, energy, information technology, natural gas, satellite-based remote sensing, IT, automobile, textiles, agro-based industries, river and land-based transportation system. The two sides have agreed to expand cooperation in areas like industry, energy, rail transportation, communication, science and technology, and health. There were also agreements in cultural exchanges, border trade, and cooperation in non-traditional security issues. India has offered a huge financial assistance to Myanmar for capacity building projects. Now, the next is civilizational links. India and Myanmar has a civilizational links that goes back to antiquity. India's active policies and effort to reinvigorate those civilizational links. Several agreements have been signed to re-establish civilizational links, and the promotion of the Buddhist studies is one of the efforts by India made in this direction. Now, the fifth one is the community building. There is a big Indian diaspora which is settled in Myanmar, and India wants to cultivate this diaspora for engaging Myanmar, and this being done through community building efforts to bring India Myanmar closer. So the last factor is the China factor. So India faces the biggest roadblock in reaching out to Myanmar due to the China factor. Security and economic interest of both India and China clashes in Myanmar. India and China, both clash on the geostrategic and the security issue. The the geostrategic importance makes Myanmar relevant to both India and China. As India and China are weighing for each other for strategic and economic gains, Myanmar likes to shift dependence on both the countries. While China has made much deeper involvement in Myanmar, as it has sided with the military regime in 1962, India is now catching up after its policy shift in 1998 and is engaging with the regimes in power. Since then, India's engagement with Myanmar has considerably improved. India is trying to leverage infrastructure projects and its geographical and cultural closeness with Myanmar. India has built personal relationship with the army commander, the current one, Min Helong, who has been openly criticizing Beijing for clandestinely supporting the ethnic rebels in Arakan region. And Arakan army is active in the Chin and Rakhine state bordering Mizoram. The Arakan army is also acting as a proxy of China and posing threat to the completion of India's Caledon multi-nodal model, transport and transit project. Since China impinges on India's security and there is both have the similar interest in Myanmar, so there has to be some adjustment between the two countries so that both can coexist together, and there should not be any conflict, and there should be all more in a cooperation mode. Similarly, India and China should not compete but cooperate in exploiting the Myanmar's huge economic potential to their advantage and have to come to terms with each other. Apart from these six, what official position of India is for the reason for developing into Myanmar's relationship, there are 6 more factors which are equally important in India-Myanmar relations. And they are important for India as such, and as well as for Myanmar. So India and Myanmar armies have agreed to strengthen the mechanism that is border security. The first one is border security. Indian Myanmar armies have agreed to strengthen the mechanism to exchange intelligence sharing along international border to check across border insurgency, and the two armies conducted joint operation to flush out rebels inside Myanmar territory. Those rebels have been handed over by Myanmar to India. Now the second one is drugs problem. The drug problem in the northeast states of Mizoram, Manipur, Nagaland primarily emanates from Myanmar, and there are a number of agreements signed to fight the illegal, border narcotic trade along with Myanmar. The third one is border post meeting. India and Myanmar regularly holds border post meeting at More and Tamu in Myanmar. More is in Indian side in the Manipur, and the Tamu is in the Myanmar side, and that is the border post. Just like what we have in the Indo-Pakistan, that Wagah Atari region. Just like that, we have a border in Manipur from the Indian side called More, and the Tamu side called is in Myanmar. So, and they have agreed to facilitate such army meeting. So this army meeting takes place in this border post and also on the 3 other border posts in other neighboring states. Neighboring states to Myanmar. So border fencing. So border fencing is important to check illegal trade, and India has sanctioned to raise the iron fencing along Manipur's, Mizoram's, sorry, not Mizoram, along Mizoram's border, which is 404 kilometers, and 14 kilometers of border with Myanmar. So the fifth one is very, very important. That is Myanmar gas. India's ONGC Videsh Limited and Gas Authority of India Limited together hold 30% of stake in the exploration of gas in Myanmar, A1 and A3 offshore blocks in the Sidwi area of the Arakan state. The idea of tri-nation pipeline project involving Myanmar, Bangladesh, and India that was floated way back in 1997, but had hit roadblocks, is now being again revived with the improved ties with Bangladesh. It's still at the pipeline stage, it's still at the talking stage. But then that's a huge project which can be functional if Bangladesh approves to India's terms, and Myanmar also, I believe, approves to sort of sell its gas to India. Now the sixth one is the final one, which is the major point which I wanted to highlight over here, is the India's Act East policy. India's Act East policy hinges on Myanmar, which is gateway to Southeast Asian countries. The 6 C's, which I have told you earlier, are the guiding principle of the India's Act East policy. As India is pitching to full its objective of Act East policy, it has a vital role in a stable Myanmar. But Myanmar is a beset with its own ethnic problems, and there are warring ethnic factions that have to be at peace to make India's Act East policy functional. It is in India's interest to bring peace and stability in Myanmar, and to do this, there must be an agreement between India, China, and the ASEAN countries to resolve the ethnic issues in Myanmar. India's Act East policy is dependent on Myanmar, and peace there is a cornerstone for the India-Myanmar, relationship. Now we come to the conclusion. That's the last part of the thing. That is, India's warmed up relations with Myanmar and its benign policy has resulted in high-level visits being exchanged and agreements being signed between the two countries. The current record of India-Myanmar relationship is much brighter than the passing years. India has opened a consulate in Mandalay, and the trilateral highway project and the Mekong Ganga rail project are significant links in this direction. The gas pipeline from Myanmar to India through Bangladesh is still a possibility. More frequent visits and more frequent exchange and visit by Indian Defence Services officers taking place to enhance defense cooperation between the two countries. India-Myanmar has discussed issues like strategic cooperation, internal security, border management to curb drugs and insurgency trafficking and border smuggling. In May 2020, 22 insurgents were handed over by Myanmar to India. India-Myanmar bilateral army exercise has built a closer ties with the two armies. As a part of its COVID vaccine diplomacy, India has supplied 1.5 million doses of vaccine to Myanmar, and it is further committed to provide humanitarian assistance to Myanmar to fight the pandemic. There are more than 12 Indian projects currently operation in Myanmar. India has completed the reconstruction of Sitwe Port, the Kaladan multimodal transport project, and the Tamu Kelava Kelamo road project, and Tamanti hydroelectrical project are all to develop the capacity building within Myanmar. India owes to improve its condition of the people of the northeast states by building a warm relationship to Myanmar, which is going on, and it is a very essential step in the success of India's Act East policy. The connectivity with Myanmar is going to be beneficial to the people of Northeast region, so that can get a sense of opening up from the current state of isolation in which they live in the northeast region of India. Keeping the strategic importance of Myanmar in the Indian Ocean region, India has initiated naval cooperation with its neighboring countries. This has a bearing on the India maritime security and economic interest in the Indian Ocean region. The sum of all these developments which India has been making or trying to develop with Myanmar is the assurance given by Myanmar that its proximity with China would not be directed against India. Whereas India has given a commitment that it would not interfere in the domestic affairs of Myanmar. In the new political environment after the coup, India must go all out for strengthening its relationship further and engage Myanmar at various levels, government level, business level, defense level, cultural level, and in fact at all levels. India has to cut out its bureaucratic barriers to make clear the business environment and to think innovatively to have Myanmar on its side to serve its strategic and economic interests. All these efforts should definitely have a bearing on India's Axis policy. What is needed is a more energetic policy of engagement with Myanmar. India should recalibrate its Axis policy in a more imaginative way to meet the challenges that may come in the way in the persuasion of its ambitious Axis policy. As such, Myanmar is a pivot to the India's Axis policy. So that's all I have to say, and I thank you once again for giving me the opportunity to talk to you at length, and that's all I have to deliberate as far as India-Myanmar relations. Thank you. Over to you, Yukta.
Thank you, Dr. Mujtaba, for your presentation on India-Myanmar relations, the journey so far, and the coup. You have covered the subject in detail, mentioning the various important incidents and highlighted the interest of the involved parties. You particularly spoke at length about India's response to the military coup in Myanmar. The relations between India and Myanmar have been covered well in your speech, including the Act East policy. I have a question, sir. How do you look at the prospect of re-establishment of democracy in Myanmar? Is it feasible in near future, or can India play any role in this regard?
Oh, you're talking about the possibility of democracy in Myanmar. Well,
yes, sir.
You see, as an Indian, we live in a democratic setup, and all Indians have heart towards democracy. And as far as the Indians are concerned, they would be happy if the democracy is restored. But then, going by the government of India's policy is, it is not going to interfere in the internal affairs of Myanmar. So whether the military regime sticks to its 1 year deadline, so 1 year is official deadline, whether it is going to be extended or the military is again going to hand over power to what you call the civilian government or to the democratic forces, we all have to wait and watch. But one thing from my side, as a one who has been following Myanmar since 1988 till now, I have been quite active in the mid 2005 to 2011, and when the constitution of Myanmar was made, and the military has given a commitment that once the constitution is made, there will be, we will be restoring democracy in Myanmar, which they did based on the constitution. And then in 2015, there was a election, and in that election, the National League of Democracy, National League Democracy, NLD, National League for Democracy party, they came into power, and they did rule democratically for 5 years. But then what has happened is that is where I'm going to tell you the question. The thing is that Myanmar is basically a military ruled country from the beginning. From the last 60 years or more than that, it's only from 1948 to 1962 there was a democratic rule. So that if you can put it, that will be roughly about 10 to 14 years or 12 years. And then you have 2015 to 2021 or 20. So this is the only, roughly about say 20 years would be a democratic rule in country. The rest of the time it was all all the time the military was ruling. So it's not India. See, we cannot talk about the way our democracy is functioning or the American democracy is functioning or Western democracy is functioning and apply the same yardstick. In fact, India has made officially India says that we have learned from those mistakes. So here as far as India is concerned, we have two basic dilemma in our policy towards Myanmar. Do we want to go all out for establishing a democratic setup in Myanmar, or we have to choose our national interest? This is the two basic thing. If we choose our national interest, then we have to, keep a lid over democracy and the fight for democracy and establishing democracy and all that. And if we go for democracy, then we will spoil our relationship with that. So as far as I am concerned, I'm still very positive. What has happened in 2011 or 2008, during the time when the constitution was made and the guided democracy was being initiated in Myanmar, and which they actually did. It's all because what has happened is the first generation of military rulers, they went to heaven or they left the power, and the next generation which came the military rule were all young people, and all of them were all Western educated people. All their studies in America and in Western Europe and other universities, and they have seen the democracy. So it is these people who actually were on the helm of affair in the making of the constitution in 2008, and they wanted to go for a guided democracy in Myanmar, which they did. But unfortunately, with all reverence to the great leader Aung San Suu Kyi, and she was in a hurry. In the 5 years which she ruled, she showed that she is in a hurry to bring a full-fledged democracy in Myanmar, which military did not approve. As such, in the constitution of 2008, military has a 25% quota system there. The 25% parliament belongs to military. Their key position, the home ministry, the border ministry, and all these 3 or 4 key ministries has to be with them. Now what has happened is this whole thing was looking like slipping away from the hands of the military. And mind you, Myanmar military is the only military, maybe, I don't know, in the African countries or whatever countries, they all have a huge interest, business interest. Their families and extended families and all that. So you cannot compare Myanmar situation with the Indian situation or democratic situation in Western Europe and American Europe. So perhaps what I felt is that our leader Aung San Suu Kyi was in a little hurry, and that spoiled the case of democracy. If she could have gone slow and taken things on the terms of the military ruler, things would have been still brighter, and maybe we could have come to that situation which is here in India in a few years of time or something like that. But at the moment when the military has come back to power again, my thinking is it is not going to leave this position very soon, until unless there is some amount of inside development. You see, the inside development within the Myanmar and army came after its first generation of army has left the scene, and the second generation has come to power. Now, this second generation power, which came to power not very long ago, sometimes in 2007, when they had the saffron revolution in Myanmar. So there are still young people, and now they have realized that this democracy business is going to hit to their belly very hard. So my guess is that this 1 year of emergency rule may be extended, and they don't care about the sanctions. They have lived all their lives in sanction. They don't care about the Western Europe because China is there with them. Whatever they need, China is going to provide them. So they all had that feeling. So I just leave it. I don't know. Maybe democracy may be coming soon. I hope and pray that it should come soon. But my gut feeling is it is going to be again a long haul. And this was an opportunity which has to be squarely blamed, not on Aung San Suu Kyi, but on the democratic forces of Myanmar, which could not read the situation properly and acted in very, very hasty manner to hurt themselves and their cause. Yes.
Thank you for the answer, sir. I have another question. What is the role of the international organizations in the event of a military coup in nation state?
Well, I mean, you see, international organization, United Nations, rule of law, US, Western Europe, and all that. You see, Myanmar has lived in all the situation for not 60 years. Myanmar has been, the international organization, including India, they have been critical about the coup, they have been critical about the military rule, they have been critical about the human rights suppression, they have been critical of all those things. They all wanted an elected representative and all that. But then, in the last 60 years of experience or so, what it teaches is that it has not made any difference to Myanmar. And mind you, there may be some kind of good feeling among the Western European countries that Myanmar has changed in recent times because of their pressure. I mean, those who are following Myanmar very well, they know that Myanmar is totally dependent on China, and everything what Myanmar can desire does not come from Western Europe or America. They come from China. So whether Western Europe supports or don't support, pressure builds or not builds, it is not going to make any difference.
Thank you. Thank you for your answer, sir.
Yeah, I just want to conclude, and that is to give a big thank you to Tilotoma, to Yukta Acharya, and the entire team who has hosted me here. I think I am able to live up to their expectation. The expectation they had from me that I should be talking to them with all authority and all conviction about the subject called India-Myanmar relations, the story so far, and the coup. And I very well enjoyed talking this.
Thank you for your valuable time. Thank you.